Today, we're reviewing some under the radar prospects brought to you by ESPN. Let's jump right into this. If you guys like draft content, I make it all the time. I've been uploading it 2 to 3 times a week. But if you see the board below my face, that is because it is my players' all 22 scouting reports on the ones that I've already done. I am going a deep dive via position, and it works perfectly because we're going to talk about Sawyer Robertson first. But I've already done a quarterback video, a corner video, a wide receiver video, and a tight end video. And here's a special thing. If you guys like deep dives, I did a deep dive on the first 3 live on the show. But the fourth one, tight ends, I gave you a really strong top 15. For those of y'all who are a little bit crazy, you guys get to have a top 26 over at my brand new Patreon. And yes, I know you're like, oh man, another thing, but it's $5 a month. You guys can go up to 10 and we'll start doing all 22 tape studies. But I really want to hone in on $5 a month because on top of being able to see the extended videos, because it's the exact same style, it's actually just a continuation of what was before. And you get to see way more tight ends. And I'm going to be continuing to do that for all the prospect groups. So you get exclusive video content on players. But on top of that, you get access to the board below my face. Not just the board, all of my evaluations. So I thought it was going to be a good idea. I saw and took inspiration for some other people. If you guys want to do a one-time thing, by all means do it. But I do want to put that in there. It is brand new, and I am planning on being able to put out specific content there as much as possible. And honestly, I'm going to start putting player interviews up there as well because they don't do well on the show, but you guys like it. So it's exclusive content for you to see where I get to talk to actual NFL draft prospects, and sometimes they just don't fit into the show. So let's get into this, talking about Sawyer Robertson. My girlfriend goes to Baylor, so I actually got to see Sawyer in person versus Kansas this past year. And so it was like super fun to see. She's a Baylor nursing school, so that's why she's in Dallas. Not a long distance thing. Not that you would care, but a little personal note there. But I got to see Sawyer in person, and Sawyer's really, really fun. He has a solid foundation, really solid build, 6'4", 220, good arm. And here's the biggest issue with Sawyer. It feels, not saying this is a comparison by any stretch of the imagination, very similar to Zach Wilson when he came out because he had like arguably the best offensive line. So he faced no pressure. When I was watching Sawyer, he rarely dealt with pressure. And it's because the offensive line did such a good job. It's not a fault of Sawyer Robertson, but under pressure, I did not see him the very few times operate as efficiently as I did some of these other quarterbacks that are a little bit more used to it. So that's my one issue with Sawyer. But again, feel free to go check out the quarterback video. It is I believe it might be a top 30, but top 25 at the very minimum. So feel free to go check that out. Again, that's a little bit more in-depth scouting report per player, like scouting report game per player for you guys to be able to check it out. But Sawyer Robertson's a really fun player. And I think he's going to continue growing, continue to do a fantastic job. And, maybe he's not going to be in that territory for a legit first round pick, which some people think he could. But I do think for a midday guy, or mid round guy, like round 3, I think this is a really good option. And I mean, we just have to end up seeing whether he can end up handling a little bit more pressure. Unfortunately, fortunately, Baylor knows what they're doing. They have a good run game. They have really reliable receivers. They have their own, shitty college version. That's so mean to say. They have their own college version of AJ Brown, essentially. There with I'm forgetting the guy's name. I think it's Coleman, but regardless, really solid wide receiver core that they have there, and they continue to add to it. So, good job on Baylor. He's going to have a good year, but I think it's a really good pick for an under the radar player. You got all these big names out there: Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik. Sawyer Robertson can compete with them, and I don't think they're as good, spoiler alert for the video, but also because you could probably end up, if I start scrolling, seeing some of those names and realize Sawyer's not in that group. But, if you're looking for someone who is not necessarily creme de la creme, but who has a really good chance to try to vault himself in that consideration, Sawyer Robertson easily is one of those names that I would have thrown in there as well. Good pick there by ESPN. Carnell Tate is next. Now, I'm going to be honest, I feel like this is stretching the sleeper card just a little bit because it's an Ohio State receiver. I mean, I know that the idea is, okay, he is underneath the shadow of Jeremiah Smith, underneath the shadow of Emeka Ibuka. If you want to classify that, by all means, you can do what you want to do. I like Carnell Tate. I think Carnell Tate is one of the most high floor receivers in the class because he just does everything fairly well. He is essentially the Cade Klubnik of the wide receiver room. I have Cade Klubnik as quarterback 5. I have Carnell Tate a little bit lower than that in the receiver room. But that's because I think some receivers are just more dynamic than I think that Cade Klubnik is a pretty damn good quarterback. I think he's really solid in a lot of areas that not many college quarterbacks are. Carnell Tate, on the other hand, he's just really solid all around, but I also think a lot more college wide receivers are pretty damn solid, more all around than necessarily quarterbacks in the quarterback department. So I think Carnell Tate's a really solid high floor receiver. To me, he's about a wide receiver 3 in the NFL right now. He's right there between that 3 and 4. And by a year of development, I assume he should be a wide receiver 2. That's just the way I end up hoping for it. If you end up vaulting up the roster in terms of your role, in terms of the targets, I expect for you to improve and show that you're worthy of that role. Like last year, Carnell Tate was by far the wide receiver 3. He's acting like it. And that's, it's a good thing. He's not having imposter syndrome, but he's now going to be the wide receiver 2. And if you can't translate that to the NFL, I have some concerns. Now, there's some guys like Jeremiah Smith, they're going to be a 1 the whole time. And at least with Jeremiah Smith's case, he's earning that right. But when it comes to Carnell Tate, we're going to have to see him step up in terms of being a unique contributor, or else he's going to be a mid-round guy who's a really solid contributor while you allow the guys who are a little bit more special to take the higher end roles. But Carnell Tate, good receiver. Again, I would be saying it's a bit of a stretch to call him a sleeper, but that's okay. I have not studied the defensive interior class. So this is also something for us to learn together. The next groups after running back, which is what I'm doing right now. If you guys want to know what I'm up to, follow me over on X is the easiest thing to do. It's free. I end up posting all 22 clips that I talk about in the scouting reports that I end up talking about in the videos on the show. So it gives you a lot of actual context rather than me kind of talking out of my ass. But I think that, is a great way to see, okay, Alex is posting a lot about running backs. Pretty obviously he's going to be doing a running back video soon. So defensive interior and edge are going to be the next, not exactly in that order. I think I'm going to go to edge first. But Gracen Halton, I've not heard of this guy. So we got a real sleeper here, which is great. 14.1% pressure rate. My big issue is ESPN has seemed to differ from some other sources in terms of their pressure rate. I'll have to check what PFF is looking at. But 6'2", 291, you better have a pressure rate of like above 12% if you're going to be subsized. Like sub 300, I'm not a huge fan of guys who are sub 300. There's very few that I really, really like. Last year, 6th round pick Aeneas Peoples was one of them. And I think he was in the 280s of all things. But you really have to win my heart to be, for me to be a big fan. The thing I worry about with Halton is like, apparently he had 5 sacks in 13 games. That's good. That's good. So not even a single quarterback takedown over the past 2 seasons. The biggest thing is, I look at every single big game throughout the year. You guys know this, the stock report. It is a really poor performing series. I don't want to strip the show too much and put that onto the Patreon to the point where, the show is essentially just big videos and that's it. Obviously you want to keep a good balance of like good content and content that performs, right? Because obviously over time you build up an audience that likes the smaller content. That's how you roll. But regardless, all that Patreon talk aside, which again, feel free to go check that out. I think it's fairly valuable for the fact that I actually end up like not speaking out my ass. You get to see exactly who I've watched, what I think of them. And I'm willing to be wrong, but I'm not willing to be dishonest. So you guys get to end up seeing all that. But regardless, Gracen never popped off to me in terms of the scouting or the weekly stock reports. And I went through a lot of Oklahoma games, so I'll really have to dig into that. But usually when you see somebody like Gracen Halton on here who's doing a lot as a defensive interior, you end up seeing a lot of them popping up on these stock reports, like TJ Parker, for example, someone who I'm excited to watch in the edge class. He ended up being on a couple of the stock reports. And maybe I'm not even just talking about the videos, which I guess I could end up looping that into the board because I do it on my own personal side, but you guys can end up seeing, all the guys who I ended up marking down there on the stock report. Feel free to let me know if you guys want to see that. Of course you would. It's free addition, but we'll see if it's worth it because my notes are absolute crap when I end up doing that. It's more so for me to make sure I know everybody. But regardless, I did not see him, I did not see him pop off like that statistically. But Gerald McCoy comparisons, we'll have to see if that ends up coming to the forefront. Texas Tech apparently is like a super squad now. They just ended up getting a top end running back as well, transfer from USC. Forget his name off the top of my head, but he is one that just ended up popping up thanks to shout out to the NFL Stock Exchange. They ended up just putting a running back video out themselves, and it's exciting to see how we're very different on our points of view. Not saying they're right, not saying I'm right. we're just honest about our stuff. And that's why I love him to death, even if I don't agree with him. Some things are just surprising. And just like y'all see some things with me, you're like, really? He likes that guy? Like, that's the way. That's why we love this, right? But regardless, Texas Tech has a ton of really good talent this year. So it'll be exciting to see if they end up doing stuff. But apparently they have a good defensive interior here. Lee Hunter, nicknamed the Fridge. So, okay, he was at UCF. So, man, shout out to Texas Tech and Louisville. Like, those two schools are operating the transfer portal insanely well for the quality of program that they're perceived to be. So, shout out to both of those. But apparently, this guy's name is the Fridge. 320 pounds, 6'4". I mean, he's going to end up. I mean, are they going to use him as a nose? Like, they're talking. I mean, he's a big dude. Okay, well, apparently, there's an NFC area scout that's already watched him. They saw him play in person. That's exciting to see. He's able to command double teams, and he'll be able to stand out in the 30 front. Very intriguing. Very intriguing to say the least. I mean, he'll probably be a nose at that point if he's going to be the one handling double teams. And I don't know why we're talking about Byron Murphy. Hunter's a what? Okay. Much like Byron Murphy and Kenneth Grant, Hunter is a massive interior prospect who could land in round one. I assume they're talking about massive in terms of, momentum, because Kenneth Grant was presumed to be a first rounder, and then Byron Murphy as well coming into their prospective draft years. But I mean, Byron Murphy was sub 300. I would not call him physically massive the way Kenneth Grant as well as Lee Hunter appear to be. Definitely a name we got to look at because they just dropped the round one card. That's pretty ballsy. Then we'll talk about Jack Endries next, tight end from Texas, transfer from Cal, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. First off, hopefully Jack's not seeing this, but his dad, funnily enough, ended up DMing me. First off, quality dude. I mean, Mr. Endries has a lot of my respect. Funnily enough, he starts out by saying, "Hey, Jack doesn't like me engaging much on social media." Like, what an absolute dad. I mean, he's like, "Hey, thank you so much for this, even though I'm not supposed to be doing this." Like, I love family dynamics like that. But really good dad, good family there. Endries is someone that I saw as a lower end gunner helm. I like a lot of what I see. I think he's an amazing fit for Texas, and I think it's going to work. It's really going to work there in Texas because, again, I see the vision for the role. Now, I do think Gunnar Helm was a better player, but at the same time, Jack Endries wasn't an offense that I do think might have limited his potential for growth. So we might see Jack Endries in the same mold as Gunnar Helm because the role is such a good fit for him. I'm excited to see if Jack Endries can improve upon the performance that Helm had last year. But good family, good people. Like, they all seem like great guys. And put me onto a couple other tight ends as well. There's a Stanford tight end that he ended up talking about. And one of them that I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, who just ended up transferring. I'm forgetting where, but you guys gave him a shout as well. But regardless, I mean, somebody who I think could actually have a really, really solid year there at Texas. And I'm excited to see if he can end up living up to the expectations that I think he can. Dillon Thieneman is next, defensive back out of Oregon. Again, if I mispronounced that, by all means, feel free to crucify me. I watch an all-22 tape. I'm not a guy who has a ton of free time on my hand to watch all the games live. When I do, I probably stream it with y'all. So just FYI on that. I like to be able to watch them back. And if you're watching an all-22, you just got to put that out there. Probably not going to hear it as much. You're not going to hear the name pronunciation. So get on my ass. I am happy because I said Azirawaku for Ezraku, who I was standing 2 inches away from when he was at SMU. So, I mean, by all means, go at it, guys. But I would say be a dick. Don't be a dick about it. Regardless, at Purdue, he was unbelievable as a freshman. He just ended up having a little bit of a down year last year. And if I'm going to be honest, you can't carry for that long. That whole entire Purdue defense kind of got eaten by, they got riddled like Swiss cheese. And so I'm not going to blame him too much. I think the move to Oregon is absolutely fantastic. So I do think he's going to be a really, really good fit there. And based on how he performed early on in his career in the Big Ten, I can't see that being a bust-worthy selection in the NFL. Even in the first round, I mean, I've seen him pop off when watching other players. So I'm excited to see him when I actually get to focus solely on how he is playing. Kaden Green is next, guard slash tackle out of Missouri. I know he played guard last year. I'm not sure if they're saying he's going to be moving to tackle. Okay, they're replacing Marcus Bryant. So apparently he's trying to potentially move to that left tackle spot. Shout out to Marcus Bryant, by the way. He was in one of my classes at SMU in sport management. Small world, right? I know I might look like I have a couple more years on me. The wrinkles are a little bit deeper. The eye bags are a little bit more bagging than necessarily it might seem. But you know, I ain't that old. I ain't that old. Been trying. Been trying to stay young. But regardless, Kaden Green, Missouri knows how to develop offensive linemen. Even I think Marcus Bryant's going to be a fantastic backup swing tackle. But Kaden Green ended up having a really good year last year, forgetting the exact pressure rate that he had, but transferring to tackle after the mobility that he's shown, I'm not too crazy. Or I don't think it's too crazy to think that he could end up being a potential round one guy. Like Missouri is red hot in terms of producing NFL talent. I don't think that Green is going to really slow that role. So we'll definitely see how it works. 6'5", 315 is a great build. I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for. 320 is the ideal, but it's called one off season with a nutritionist and NFL training. Just gonna put that out there too. But I do think that there's a lot to be learned when it comes to Kaden Green, especially if he's transitioning to tackle. And it's tough. It's tough. It's tough to be able to make that move. And I mean, again, it doesn't look like it, but I played every position on the offensive line, started every position or every single position on the offensive line, and it's not easy. I kind of wish I didn't. Just, if I'm going to be honest, like I ended up enjoying my time at the majority of them. Center was the worst, mainly because I was the most tenured of everyone who played with me. But it's just like I would have really liked to be able to have some consistency. And I do think it developed a really solid floor in terms of my understanding now of all the positions now that I got trained for 1 to 2 years at every single one of them. But I mean, I gotta admit, it would have been nice to be more of a perfectionist than anything, but it allows me to do this better, which is fun. But regardless, we might see some growing pains there. And I think that of all places, one that's had a lot of success, especially in developing talent, like Missouri, is a good spot for him to be. Caleb Lomu, tackle out of Utah. This is a guy who I've talked about plenty. Spencer Fano is getting a lot of the hype just because of the fact he had statistically a fantastic year. But Lomu, I believe next to Fano, they're talking about arm length, like being a concern. We'll see. But Lomu is another one of those players that's just been really, really reliable. Utah has been extremely underrated probably for the past like half decade. I mean, they've just been consistently talented. And of course, it's probably all the years that damn Cam Rising's been there. But Caleb Lomu, definitely a name to be watching in this range. They are a lot lighter, Fano and Lomu, respectively. But I am really excited to see if they really take that step up and whether they can truly play tackle the NFL level. But in college, they're locked down. And then we got CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. Again, hard to say that both Lomu as well as Allen are called sleepers. We are in that part of the year where unless you know the biggest names, it's understandable why you can do this. But CJ Allen, for the most part, are people's linebacker 1 or 2. Y'all know me. I'm a little bit of a nitpicker. That's the way I roll. I like to be able to, y'all do it to me too. It's okay. It's a loving relationship. It's called tough love. But if you're gonna title something sleepers, let's talk about some sleepers. Let's talk about some round 2 guys. I mean, hey, they have some good ones in here. They started out with a banger with Sawyer Robertson. That's a really good one. Maybe we could talk about a different linebacker, but regardless, CJ Allen, I mean, he is like pretty much consensus the number 2 linebacker in the class. Understandably so. I mean, he was really high end for Georgia last year in a group of really solid linebackers. The question is he going to be day 2 or day 1 worthy? It's very difficult for linebackers to be day 1 worthy. So it's just at that point, especially in the NFL where there's not really too many guys who are creme de la creme. Like you're kind of having a top 3 right now with Bond, Warner, and Roquan. Not in that order. Just saying that's the group right now for like the elite linebackers in the game. And then you have that next tier where I hate to say it, a first round pick usually has a little bit more impact than that. It's a lot more of like bend but don't break, high floor, or maybe like some high ceiling guys that don't exactly have that consistency. So I would just say the linebacker position in general gets pushed down a little bit more than it should. I would say that the Packers' second round pick, I don't know why I'm forgetting him, from Texas A&M, over a year ago, he is somebody that I love. Edgerrin, I want to call him Edgerrin James, but oh man, His name's Edgerrin, but regardless, I think that guy could end up being in that top 3. I really do think he could be, breaking into that elite tier. But regardless, CJ Allen, really solid player. I mean, he's somebody who did pop off in terms of statistically. I did write him down for a couple of the stock reports, but definitely a name that we should end up keeping an eye on. Fernando Mendoza is next, quarterback out of Indiana. Someone who I really ended up liking. You can see him on the screen right now. Actually, you can't. There he is. I can only go 18 down. But Fernando Mendoza sitting here at 19th on my board. Again, I'm still working with positional value, so TBD on that. I do want to put that out there. I'm trying to, with my new grading system, which if you guys, again, join the Patreon, you guys can end up seeing it. I am weighing things. I have a whole entire new system that I think is so much more accurate at being able to show how good players are comparatively. Because I do think, long story short, the way I was grading before gave certain positions a little bit more of an advantage based on how tough I graded certain spots. So now it's gotten a lot more even. It's a little bit tougher on certain positions that had the easy part, but we'll see what's up. Like, so the exact order is not necessarily fully set, but this is accurate. Regardless, Fernando Mendoza is a really good player. Like, he just needs to be a lot more consistent. And I think that at Indiana, I have a ton of faith in them continuing to polish him into the player that he is. Cal's done a fantastic job, but I do think Indiana is going to actually polish him for the NFL. Elijah Surratt's going to be an absolute beast for him. But Fernando Mendoza, again, you can watch the quarterback video to get a little bit more of a breakdown for him. But definitely a name that I do like being mentioned because not many people mention him with the Aller, Manning, Beck, and I mean, obviously Sellers. Sellers, technically, not many people talk about him at that level, but you can also then toss in Cade Klubnik into this group. But yeah, Fernando Mendoza, definitely a name to toss in there. Not a sleeper, but for the people, when you go past the 5th consensus quarterback, I can definitely agree with you that you can call him a sleeper and put him into a list for us to talk about. But that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for having the patience because I really want to get some deep dives out there. I have to get through and do the graphics on that. I've been trying to dive hard into being able to have the players fully studied because I've been trying to go much harder this year at being able to get as more players every single time, and it's fun. I enjoy the deep dives. So I appreciate you guys showing the love that you always do. Join me on the Patreon. Enjoy this for yourself. Thank you again for supporting. Love you. See you on the far side. Peace.